Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Prasar coming up in the next hour. A day ahead of the India-US 2+2 dialogue, the White House says India is a key strategic partner and US is dedicated to advancing this partnership.
India is a key strategic partner, but we'll leave it to the Indian government and the Prime Minister to decide what their stance is going to be on any particular crisis or contingency around the world, to include the Middle East.
India surpasses China as the most represented higher education system in Asia. Bombay and Delhi IITs make it to the top 50 in QS World University Rankings for Asia. The Cabinet of India's largest state of Uttar Pradesh meets in Ayodhya on the 4th anniversary of the landmark Supreme Court verdict, paving the way for construction of Ram Temple as Ayodhya gears up for the opening of the temple in January next year. New Zealand locks horns with Sri Lanka in a do-or-die match for the Kiwis in Bengaluru in the ODI Cricket World Cup. The upcoming 5th annual US-India 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue in India's national capital, New Delhi, kickstarts on the 10th of November. The dialogue will be attended by US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. The dialogue takes place amid ongoing international conflicts between Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Hamas, which has a bearing on strategic dynamics and global outlook of both nations. DD India's Jessica Taneja has more details.
Every year, the 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue brings together India's foreign and defense ministers with their US counterparts to address and collaborate on common concerns to enhance and strengthen relationship between the two nations. Over the years, America has offered strong bipartisan support to India. From making it a major defense partner in 2016 to holding Quad meetings at the leaders level. For a non-treaty ally, America has made a significant change in its policy. With India-US trade likely to touch $300 billion in 2026 and 27, the Ministerial Dialogue helps in promoting forums like G20, the Quad, and IPEF, or the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. For America, India is also an important ally for its free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. The 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue has seen some great momentum over the years. The signing of Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, or the LEMOA, in 2016, the signing of COMCASA, or the Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement, in 2018, along with the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, or the BECA, in 2020. Not only was signing COMCASA and other important pacts in the foundational years a big step, but providing waivers to India from Russia sanctions was a significant advancement in the relationship. In fact, 5 years ago, India was given the Strategic Trade Authorization status for transfers of some dual-use high-technology trade. While these deals are good signs of convergences, looking at the current momentum, further framework for overcoming hurdles on regulation of technology, digital economy, few matters of global governance have also been put in place now. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
Speaking on the 5th India-US 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue, the principal deputy spokesperson of the US Department of State, Vedant Patel, said that the meeting will focus on deepening security cooperation between the two countries, among other issues.
India is a country that we have a deep partnership. This, of course, he'll be going for the 2+2 security dialogue with Secretary of Defense Austin. So I expect, of course, that deepening the security cooperation and partnership will be one of the many topics that are discussed. It was something that was obviously raised during Prime Minister Modi's state visit earlier this year. And I know the Secretary looks forward to being there and in engaging directly with his counterparts on this. But I'll let the trip take place before we talk more about it.
While addressing the media, the White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said that India is a key strategic partner for the US and both countries are dedicated to further strengthening the ties.
But India is a key strategic partner, and I think you saw that on full display when Prime Minister Modi was here. But we'll leave it to the Indian government and the Prime Minister to decide what their stance is going to be on any particular crisis or contingency around the world, to include the Middle East. But they remain a key strategic partner, and we're dedicated to advancing that partnership every single day.
Indeed, India's Jessica Taneja joins us now from New Delhi. Jessica, it is the fifth 2+2 ministerial meeting on Friday in New Delhi. We've seen how India and the US have come some distance in defense and tech collaborations. Would this be then an opportunity to take stock and plan for future?
Well, that's right. Looking at the initiatives that have been taken by both the countries over the years, and the kind of momentum it has gained, looking at few foundational pacts here, with the first ministerial meeting that was in 2016 to now 2023, we've seen quite a lot of progress made, not in terms of just signing all those foundational pacts that I spoke about earlier in the story, including the LIMOA or the COMCASA. Even the BECA agreement in 2020 marked a significant step in that direction when it comes to both the countries deepening their security cooperation. Talking about other deals as well, the kind of momentum that has been put in by both the leaders in this, especially with the follow-up of various meetings by the ministers and also the national security advisors visiting both New Delhi and Washington. We've seen how these pacts have sort of come to the forefront. Looking at what relationship between India and the United States existed back in 1998, when there were sanctions imposed by America on India, and now we're looking at a trade of potentially $300 billion in the year 2026 and 27, and of course deepening security and defense cooperation, even exchange of critical technology. That has put India on the map, and in the future perhaps we'll see more collaborations.
Yes, let's pick up on where you left. So a key outcome of PM Modi's visit to US in June was the MOU signed by GE, General Electric and HAL of India for manufacture of fighter jet engines here in India. Could its implementation be discussed as well? Because it was a key headline takeaway.
Well, so far no announcements have been made to that effect, Munmun. But what we do know that this particular agreement has been important for both India and the United States, particularly for India, because as a non-treaty ally, this would be a critical, export, military export to India. And we're looking at 99 jets being purchased by India under $1 billion. And this will certainly add, more to India's defense capabilities. And within the COMCASA as well, if you see, the kind of US origin systems that will be shared by India are not offered to many other countries. And that kind of military pact, or as we acknowledged earlier as well, that both India is in fact United States' major defense partner. All of that combined makes it even more comprehensive, and the understanding between the two nations that moves ahead, that yes, these kind of initiatives and agreements would pick up pace. But for so far, at least in this particular ministerial dialogue, we will have to wait for the outcomes as to what it says, particularly about the jet engine GE deal, and further details would be awaited on that, Munmun.
Jessica, looking at some other issues, is there a likelihood that India-Canada ties come up for discussion in the Jaishankar-Blinken bilateral on the sidelines, considering that even the US has weighed in with its views on it in the past?
Well, it certainly has, even though during the G20 summit we didn't see much conversation around that, but post G20, after Justin Trudeau did raise it in his parliament, we've seen also America, Anthony Blinken particularly say that they would want India to sort of cooperate in this, and India so far has cooperated in the matter. That discussion, of course, again, we will have to wait and see, because apart from what we've been told by the MEA, we don't have any confirmation whether this particular issue will take center stage. But what we do know is that the Middle East crisis currently, the Hamas and Israel conflict that is going on, perhaps will come up for discussion, and other global and regional issues could also dominate the discussions.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Jessica Taneja reporting from New Delhi. A convoy carrying emergency medical supplies and medicine have reached the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City. It is the second delivery of vital aid to the hospital since the conflict between Hamas and Israel escalated. In a joint statement, the UN and World Health Organization said that the quantity of supplies are far from sufficient to respond to the immense needs in the Gaza Strip. UNRWA and WHO again called for fuel to be delivered to humanitarian agencies in the Gaza Strip. In another development in the sidelines, French President Emmanuel Macron will on Thursday host a conference on humanitarian aid for Gaza. Thursday's aid conference has been put together in a hurry on the sidelines of the annual Peace Forum of Paris on the 10th and 11th of November. International concern over the fate of Gaza's civilians has strengthened calls for humanitarian pauses, maritime corridor, floating hospitals and better aid coordination for Gazans are in focus at the Paris conference. The UN estimates that $1.2 billion in aid will be needed for the populations of Gaza and West Bank from now until the end of this year. DD India's Rebecca Bundun now joins us from Paris. Rebecca, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is such that even Israel has said that it would consider tactical little pauses in fighting to allow aid to flow in. Could you tell us more about what the Conference on Humanitarian Aid for Gaza seeks to achieve?
Well, this is a conference that's been called by French President Emmanuel Macron on the sidelines of the Paris Peace Forum. And the President's office has said that the idea is to focus on this critical humanitarian situation that the civilian population in Gaza is facing. We've heard from the United Nations that has talked about the widespread situation that the civilian population is facing in terms of a lack of access to just the basics like food, water, energy and medical supplies, and there have been these difficulties, it is said, in those supplies actually getting through to Gaza given the situation with the conflict between Hamas and Israel. And the idea of this conference is bringing together states, international organizations, donors and NGOs that are active on the ground in Gaza to actually try to mobilize support, mobilize aid, try to get these basics through to Gaza, and also of course, financial commitment as well as a big part of this, and it's hoping to get some new financial commitments through as part of this conference. So really focusing on the civilian population and trying to get some support through, given the humanitarian situation. Israel representatives are not actually attending, but we do have the Palestinian Prime Minister, of course, the French President himself, the European Commissioner, Ursula von der Leyen. So NGOs attending, the UN. So there are a lot of big players who will be there at this conference.
Right. Rebecca, you would remember that we saw how the Cairo Peace Summit ended without a breakthrough on Gaza 2 weeks ago. What are the odds of this one enlisting some success?
Well, if we look at the Paris Peace Forum itself, which is due to begin on Friday, it's a 2-day conference, and that's a summit that's actually focused on promoting good governance. It's focusing on areas including peace and security, and it comes against this backdrop of the Israel-Hamas conflict. However, analysts have said that, it's limited in terms of what it can really achieve in terms of a breakthrough. They're not expecting that at all. What it will do is actually help to increase dialogue, draw attention to some of the matters, actually help to facilitate discussions that will take place, and this can help in terms of political coordination and so on. And then with this humanitarian conference that's taking place today, it's hoped that that can help in terms of mobilizing support for organizations that are working on the ground, potentially help to get some aid through. But in terms of a major breakthrough, that's really not expected.
Rebecca, we'll leave it at that. Rebecca Bundun reporting from Paris. Meanwhile, Israel's military spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, said that Hamas is losing its grip in northern Gaza as residents flee to south.
50,000 עזתים We saw 50,000 Gazans move from the northern Gaza Strip to the south. They are moving because they understand that Hamas has lost control in the north and that the south is safer. There is no ceasefire. We are at war with Hamas. The public under Hamas is fleeing south because they understand that Hamas is using them as human shields. There are humanitarian pauses. We are not at war with the population of Gaza. We are at war with Hamas, who is holding our people hostage.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has dismissed what he called false rumors after reports that a proposal to release 12 hostages in exchange for a 3-day humanitarian pause is under discussion. Talking to the media, Netanyahu reiterated that there will be no ceasefire without the release of hostages. He also issued a rare condemnation of West Bank settler violence. Netanyahu emphasized that Jewish extremists who attack Palestinians in the West Bank represent a very small fraction of the overall Israeli population.
There will be no ceasefire without the release of our hostages. Anything else is futile. There is a tiny handful of people who do not represent this public, who take the law into their own hands. We are not prepared to tolerate it. We are not about to accept it. We will act against it in every way. This causes serious international damage to the state of Israel, and it does not represent the public. I condemn it, and we will act against it. And I know I represent all the people sitting here, the heads of the settlements in Judea and Samaria, and the people who settle in Judea and Samaria. Thank you very much.
Still to come on DD India News Hour, African-American actress and singer Mary Miliband praises Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, says he stands for women and is the best leader for India. It's the 4th anniversary of the inauguration of the Kartarpur corridor between India and Pakistan, paving the way for devotees to visit the Gurudwara on the other side of the border. India is celebrating National Entrepreneurship Day today in recognition of the achievements of its entrepreneurs and business leaders.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munmun Bhattacharya. US singer Mary Miliband has praised Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his stand on women, describing him as the best leader for India and the progress of Indian citizens. Mary Miliband also added that Prime Minister Modi is the best leader for the India-US relationship and for the global economic stability.
I love India and the Indian people globally. And I believe Prime Minister Modi is the best leader for India and the progress of Indian citizens. He's the best leader for the US-India relationship and for the global economic stability of the world. Moreover, he is a leader who believes in the empowerment of women. From paving the way for President Murmu's historic election, to appointing women in key cabinet positions, to encouraging Indian women athletes in their achievements, the Prime Minister stands for women.
4 years ago on this very day, the Kartarpur corridor between India and Pakistan was inaugurated, allowing devotees to visit the Gurudwara on the other side of the border. Founder of the Sikh faith, the Guru Nanak Dev, travelled through many countries, spreading the message of universal peace, harmony and love before finally arriving in Kartarpur in 1521. Jessica Taneja has more.
The founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak Dev, spent the last 18 years of his life here in Pakistan's Kartarpur district. This is the sacred ground where Guru Nanak Dev set up the first Sikh community, laid down the ethical principles, and handpicked the second Guru for the newly established religious faith. For more than 70 years, pilgrims could view Kartarpur Sahib only through a telescope lens. 4 years ago, an international human corridor was inaugurated, allowing Indian pilgrims to cross over into Pakistan visa-free.
9 नवंबर ही वो तारीख थी जब बर्लिन की दीवार गिरी थी। दो विपरीत धाराओं ने एकजुट होकर नया संकल्प लिया था। आज 9 नवंबर को करतारपुर साहिब कॉरिडोर की शुरुआत हुई है। इसमें भारत का भी सहयोग रहा है, पाकिस्तान का भी।
Despite decades of growing tensions between the two nations, this initiative sent out a message of peace which would eventually lead to better ties in the future. Today, the Kartarpur Sahib corridor holds great significance not just for Sikhs and Hindus, but also for Muslims who were equally devoted to Guru Nanak Dev. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
In a historic first, a cabinet meeting of the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh was held in the city of Ayodhya today. Several projects for the development of the state and the city, especially to boost tourism, were proposed. Nearly 24 proposals were approved by the cabinet. This meeting comes as the city is gearing up for the opening of the Ram temple in January next year. Before the meeting, state's Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, along with his ministers, visited the Ram Janmabhoomi Mandir construction site in Ayodhya. They also offered prayers at the Ram Lalla temple. And my colleague Ajay Mishra now joins us. Ajay, it was a special cabinet meeting in Ayodhya. Can you tell us more about the decisions that were taken at the meeting?
I think the 14 proposals had been adopted by the UP cabinet in Ayodhya, which was historic in a sense that for the very first time the cabinet meeting held in Ayodhya, looking at the opening of Sri Ram Mandir in January 2024, and also the development projects in Ayodhya. It is expected that there are many more projects that are that has to be adopted by the cabinet. We understand that the formation of inland waterways authority for Uttar Pradesh has been adopted. That's very important announcement from the UP Chief Minister. Second, I think the winter session of the UP Parliament has been convened on 28th of November, which will have the supplementary demand for the state budget processes. There are almost 178 projects currently running in Ayodhya, and we understand that there are many more developmental projects leading to the spiritual tourism and enhancement of the developmental activities in and around Ayodhya has been discussed. We are yet to have the details of the all proposals for this very special cabinet meeting. But we understand that there are many proposals which are linked to the development of Ayodhya has been discussed today. It's all about messaging, Munmun. I think for the very first time, it was the 9th of November 1989 when the first foundation stone of temple was laid. Again on the 9th of November 2019, the Supreme Court paved the way of building of Ram Mandir in Ayodhya, and today is the 9th of November 2023 when the first cabinet meeting has held. Yogi government has held its cabinet meeting in Prayagraj when it was preparing for the Kumbh in 2019. It has also held a special meeting in Varanasi. This is, I think, for the third time that a special place has been chosen. It's a subtle messaging, as the Prime Minister this morning was also telling in Madhya Pradesh that BJP is constructing Ram Mandir with the same faith as it is constructing the housing projects under PM Awas Yojana. So it is the the cultural nationalism at heart, and it's a subtle messaging from the BJP that both the cultural nationalism as well as the development projects are going hand in hand, and the BJP government is committed to that.
Right, Ajay Mishra, we leave it at that. Ajay Mishra joining us from the newsroom in New Delhi, and it's going to be a very busy next 2 months ahead of the opening of the Ram Temple on the 22nd of January in Ayodhya. In the newly released QS Asian University Rankings 2024, India has surpassed China to become the most represented higher education system. With 148 universities in the ranking list, India now has the highest number of featured universities in Asia, surpassing China with 133 and Japan with 96 universities. The Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, secured the top spot in India with 40th position, followed by IIT Delhi at 46th position and IIT Madras at the 53rd position. The University Grants Commission, which provides recognition to universities in India, has issued fresh guidelines for foreign higher educational institutions that seek to open campuses in the country. The guidelines have been prepared in line with the National Education Policy 2020. According to the new regulations, foreign universities can collaborate to set up campuses in India, provided that they have secured a position within the top 500 in global rankings. They can set up more than one campus in India and will need to submit separate applications. Campuses of foreign universities in India will have the autonomy to recruit faculty and staff. They will need prior approval from UGC for starting new courses. Foreign university campuses in India cannot offer online courses or distance learning. National Entrepreneurship Day is being celebrated today. India's Ministry of Skills and Entrepreneurship was notified on this day in 2014. Since then, the day is celebrated by the ministry as National Entrepreneurship Day. DD India correspondent Kriti Vadera has more.
National Entrepreneurship Day is to celebrate the achievements of entrepreneurs and business leaders. Inclusion of startups in the G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration marks a historic milestone for Startup 20, an initiative of India in G20 this year.
Parcha is an AI-based healthcare startup where we are trying to assist doctors and hospitals in the entire patient journey and provide the top quality medical health services to even the remotest corner of the country.
So Road Vision is an AI solution for road infrastructure, right? What we do is we use artificial intelligence to maintain road infrastructure. So say whenever there is even say smallest crack on the road, right, we can automatically capture that using a mobile phone based application.
The phenomenal progress of recent years demonstrates India as a favorable destination for startups. India has drawn entrepreneurs by providing a favorable environment for global attention and investment, resulting in a dynamic landscape of creativity and enterprise.
Our role is to help them protect what they are developing, be it technologies, be it their trademarks, be it the name that they are creating. They are spending a lot of time, they are spending a lot of effort in terms of making it happen. And we are ensuring that they are filing and protecting these trademarks or patents or copyrights or designs in India as well as in US and other countries.
By enhancing ease of doing business, reducing bureaucratic hurdles and encouraging cross-disciplinary collaboration, India can attract both domestic and foreign talents.
India has the potential to set a deep benchmark in global economy with its AI and tech services. India has the possibility to produce its own AI factories, and with their innovative ideas, Indian startups can come from backside of the stage to be the frontliners in leading the world of innovation. With camera person Alok, I am Kriti Vadera reporting from New Delhi for DD India.
Ahead of the upcoming 54th International Film Festival of India in the city of Goa, Union Minister for State of Information and Broadcasting Dr. L. Murugan met Goa's Chief Minister Dr. Pramod Sawant at his residence on Thursday with regard to the preparations for the 54th IFFI. The Minister of State INB said that the popularity of FIFI has grown year by year after Goa had been declared as the permanent venue for the festival.
Today, this entire Goa, we are preparing like a 1 week full festival. Okay. For that, a preliminary meeting today we came. I met our Honorable Chief Minister. Chief Minister also instructed to the officials to do work fast. So I like our Joint Secretary is there today. We another meetings also, couple of meetings we are having, and I'm going to visit the places also where our film bazaar place or film mela place. Every year we are improving cultural. Every celebrities they are participating. They are owning because of the cinema industry people throughout the south or Bollywood. They are all owning this festival.
And still to come on DD India News Hour, US Democrats score significant victories in state elections, giving a boost to US President Joe Biden. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken discusses growing military ties between North Korea and Russia with his South Korean counterpart in Seoul. Russian President Vladimir Putin reaches Kazakhstan in only his third international visit in 2023.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such change makers.
Watch Change Makers on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Manmandaracharya. Here's a recap of the headlines. A day ahead of India-US 2+2 dialogue, White House says India is a key strategic partner and the US is dedicated to advancing this partnership. India surpasses China as the most represented higher education system in Asia. Bombay and Delhi IITs make it to the top 50 in QS World University Rankings for Asia. The Cabinet of India's largest state of Uttar Pradesh meets in Ayodhya on the 4th anniversary of the landmark Supreme Court verdict, paving the way for construction of Ram Temple as Ayodhya gears up for the opening of the temple in January next year. Indian multinational company Adani Group has praised the efforts of development partners in Sri Lanka's port project. Taking to his social media account, Chairman Gautam Adani praised the US International Development Finance Corporation and other stakeholders for their collaborative role in the development initiative of the West Container Terminal project in Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo. Moving forward in the direction of making healthcare services better, a memorandum of intent was signed between India and the Netherlands at The Hague. The MOI was signed to cooperate on medical product regulation and enhance the quality of medical products and healthcare services for both countries. Signed during a meeting of Indian Union Minister Bhagwant Kuba and Dutch Minister Ernst Kuipers. Kuiper was visiting Netherlands to participate in the second World Local Production Forum meeting. The World Local Production Platform is a platform created at the initiative of the WHO with the aim of increasing access to medicines and other health technologies. The biennial Dubai Air Show 2023 is being held in the United Arab Emirates from the 13th to the 17th of November. A contingent from the Indian Air Force has landed at the Al Maktoum International Airport in Dubai to participate in the show. The Indian Air Force contingent is comprising two indigenous platforms, which is the Light Combat Aircraft LCA Tejas and the Advanced Light Helicopter ALH Dhruv. While the Tejas will be part of both static and aerial displays during the air show, the Sarang helicopter display team will be displaying their formation aerobatic skills. Tejas and Sarang teams have also participated in the 2021 edition of the Dubai Air Show. IAF contingent is being staged by its C-17 Globemaster III transport aircraft. The teams will first perform on the opening ceremony on the 13th of November and will thereafter share the airspace with other leading aerial display teams of the world. Let's now take a look at some other news stories. Indian President Draupadi Murmu attended the celebrations of the 23rd Foundation Day of Uttarakhand. The President of India also addressed the parade ground. President Murmu was on a 3-day visit to the state, and today is the last day of her visit. Indian capital New Delhi continues to face a grim situation as the air quality continues to be in severe category for the 10th day now in a row on Thursday. The city has shut all schools, stopped construction activities and will impose restrictions on vehicle use as a precaution to combat air pollution. Meanwhile, in the financial capital of India, that is Mumbai, the Maharashtrian Chief Minister Eknath Shinde chaired a review meeting on the prevailing pollution situation in Maharashtra on Thursday. The meeting took place in the Chief Minister's residence, Varsha Bungalow, to overview the overall plans to combat air pollution. Incessant heavy rainfall for the past few days has triggered landslides and waterlogging in several districts of Tamil Nadu. A landslide occurred on the road near Kunjappa Panai in Coimbatore as heavy rainfall continued in the region. Departments are engaged in removing mudstones and trees that have fallen on the road. US Democrats have scored significant victories in state elections, giving a big boost to US President Joe Biden. As expected, abortion access was a major issue in many of the races. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
It was an impressive night of victories for the Democrats. In Virginia, the party flipped the state house and retained the Senate. It's a rebuke to Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin. He himself was not up for re-election, but he's been pushing hard to enact a 15-week abortion ban. With the Democrats now in control of the state legislature, that is not expected to happen. And therefore a blow to Youngkin, who's seen as a rising star in the Republican Party and a possible contender for the 2028 presidential election. In Kentucky, a deeply red Republican state, Democratic Governor Andy Beshear was re-elected. He ran on a platform that criticised his opponent's defence of the state's near-total ban on abortions. And in the state of Ohio, also a Republican stronghold, voters there enshrined abortion access into the state's constitution. That's a huge win for the pro-abortion Democratic campaigners. It shows that abortion access is a motivating factor for Democrat voters, an issue they're engaged with and willing to go to polling stations to help uphold. And it runs counter to the idea that the economy is the main issue at the top of voters' minds. It comes after the Supreme Court overturned the constitutional right to abortions last summer. It could also augur well for the Democrats in next year's elections, showing that voter turnout among Democratic voters could be high if candidates run on abortion access. And these results could prove a useful boost for President Joe Biden, who's been struggling with approval ratings and is currently trailing Donald Trump in the polls in a theoretical 2024 presidential matchup. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Donald Trump's daughter has distanced herself from financial documents at the heart of a civil trial in New York. Ivanka Trump took the witness stand on Wednesday, facing questions about her work at the Trump Organization. The former president of the United States is accused of inflating his wealth to secure better loans from banks. He denies any wrongdoing, calling the trial a scam. Sally Patterson reports.
Ivanka Trump is the fourth member of her family to take the stand here in New York City. Her brothers, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., faced questions of their own last week, where they basically said they left financial statements to their accountants. Ivanka repeated a similar narrative, saying she wasn't aware of having any role in preparing them. "I'm not an accountant," she told the court. Donald Trump's eldest daughter worked at the Trump Organization until 2017. Court filings claim that during her time there, Ivanka was involved in negotiating and securing financing for several properties. That includes a hotel in Washington, D.C. and golf resort near Miami. But many questions remain over emails and documents which date back more than a decade. Ivanka said she couldn't recall details within them. She was originally listed as a co-defendant in this case, but her lawyers successfully argued her involvement with the Trump Organization had passed the statute of limitations. But she was still brought in as a witness, despite trying to get out of doing so, and flew in to New York. Because she's not a defendant, though, no cameras were allowed inside the courtroom to take her picture before proceedings began. Despite attempts to distance herself from the case, prosecutors allege Ivanka was very much involved in the family company. Speaking outside the court, Attorney General Letitia James said the former president's daughter was inextricably tied to the company. Prosecutors claim the Trump Organization knowingly misled lenders, inflating Donald Trump's wealth to secure favorable loans. He's called the trial politically motivated and an attempt by his political opponents to keep him out of the White House. He could be forced to fork out millions of dollars in damages and be banned from doing business in his home state. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has met his South Korean counterpart in Seoul as bilateral discussions were overshadowed by issues surrounding the Israel-Gaza conflict and the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. The talks were mainly centered around growing military ties between North Korea and Russia. The two countries also condemned Hamas's attack against civilians. Blinken's visit to South Korea, it was the first U.S. Secretary of State in 2.5 years to visit the region. Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in Kazakhstan in his third international visit in 2023. The trip comes just days after French President Vladimir Putin visited Kazakhstan. Putin is expected to hold a meeting with his Kazakh counterpart, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, on a range of bilateral issues and strategic partnership. Earlier, Tokayev said Kazakhstan is ready to transport more Russian oil and gas. In late 2022, Putin had proposed establishing a gas union to support shipments between Russia, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. DD India correspondent Dasha Chernyshova gets us more on this from Moscow.
In an interview with the Kazakhstanskaya Pravda newspaper, Putin reaffirmed the partnership between Moscow and Astana regardless geopolitical situation. His visit comes days after French President Emmanuel Macron visited Kazakhstan for talks with Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev on tighter political dialogue. The Kremlin said Putin's visit has nothing to do with that and says Putin and Tokayev will discuss further development of bilateral relations, concurrent regional and international problems. Putin said in an interview that geography provides Russia and Kazakhstan with significant competitive advantages in the energy sector, in which leading Russian companies and their Kazakh partners are developing fields and establishing joint ventures to process energy resources. He said Russia is ready to assist in the gasification of Kazakhstan's northern and eastern regions in accordance with the gas cooperation roadmap signed by the Kazakh government and Russian gas giant Gazprom. If Kazakhstan decides to build its first nuclear power plant, Putin said Russia's state-owned nuclear energy company Rosatom is ready to develop a relevant project. On his part, President Tokayev said investment cooperation between Russia and Kazakhstan demonstrates the huge potential of bilateral relations. Dasha Chernyshova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
So the visit by President Vladimir Putin to Kazakhstan comes days after French President Emmanuel Macron had visited the country. Let's move on now. The SAG-AFTRA union has reached a tentative agreement with the Hollywood studios to resolve the second of the two strikes that have rocked the entertainment industry since mid-July. Union members say the negotiation showed huge gains in deals. The studios agreed to provide protections against unauthorized use of AI-generated images and increase minimum wages. A new streaming participation bonus will also be awarded to the workers. The contract is for 3 years and is valued at more than $1 billion. Actors such as Jessica Jones say that they are surprised at the speedy negotiations.
It doesn't seem real, it doesn't seem like it can be over just like that. I was expecting it to be like a few more weeks, months into January, and then it's just over. And so my brain's still trying to catch up and process oh my God, we did it. We did it. Yeah.
Chief negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland described the talks between the Actors Union and Hollywood studios and said that 113th day of the strike reached a deal.
I feel great that we have, after 118 days on strike and 35 days of negotiation before that, reached a deal. And I think our members are really excited as well, as are, I think, all of the other workers in the industry who, of course, are ready to be back to work. Well, I think our last issue that we were hung up on was an AI-related issue. And we finally were able, through discussions with the AMPTP and studio folks and our own members, we were able to make a breakthrough that gave the committee the confidence to sign off on the terms of that AI deal and bring the entire agreement to its conclusion.
Netflix spent $70 million to restore the historic Egyptian theatre, famous for hosting Hollywood's first film premiere a century ago. The company aimed to preserve the theatre's original Egyptian revival design while updating sound and projection equipment. Netflix plans to hold premieres of its films on weekdays, while American Cinematheque will showcase classic films on weekends. The restoration was met with enthusiasm, with Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos describing it as a beautiful movie house.
It's incredible. And if you had seen the theater over the last couple of years before we were able to get in and do this work, you'd see it was showing every bit of its 100 years. And so be able to bring it back, and it's a beautiful movie house, is just an incredible point of pride for us.
Meta introduced a new policy to grapple with AI's effects on political advertising. Facebook parent Meta said that starting next year, it would require advertisers to disclose when they use artificial intelligence to alter content in political ads. In a blog post, Meta said that it would require advertisers to disclose if their altered or created ads portray real people as doing or saying something that they did not. Advertisers would also have to disclose if these ads show events that did not take place or even depict a real event without the true image, video, or audio recording of the actual event. If artificial intelligence was used to alter an ad in a way that can mislead people, the content will not be allowed. Unseasonal snowfall of powerful icy winds hits northeast China once again on Wednesday. The blizzards have also resulted in the closure of toll stations in some of the northeastern provinces. Ice removing operations are constantly underway to quickly resume train services. The authorities have deployed thousands of personnel to clean up the streets. Snowfall in northeast China was expected to ease in the next few days, while blizzards could continue in north-central Xinjiang. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world. Shell is suing Greenpeace for millions of dollars over the climate group's activist boarding of an oil production vessel earlier this year. Shell described the Greenpeace's actions as unlawful and extremely dangerous, adding that it must be done safely and lawfully. Pablo Picasso's 1932 painting Femme à la Montre sold for over $139 million at Sotheby's New York auction, making it the most valuable work of art sold globally this year. The painting was the second most expensive Picasso painting to sell at auction, behind the Los Femmes d'Alger at Christie's in 2050. The American Museum of Natural History in New York is showcasing life-size models of woolly mammoths African savanna elephants and dwarf elephants. The exhibit, The Secret World of Elephants, aims to introduce visitors to elephants in a unique way as they are not familiar to North Americans. Bolivian devotees celebrated the Day of the Dead by blessing Natisha's skulls at La Paz Cemetery. This tradition, a blend of Catholic and indigenous beliefs, is often practiced by indigenous groups. Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak welcomed guests from the Hindu community and hosted a special Diwali event at 10 Downing Street ahead of the festival. He also wished everyone across the UK and around the world celebrating Diwali this weekend. The lights in the dark lit up the autumn darkness in Langeland in Denmark. People enjoyed fire shows, art exhibitions, winter bathing, and light installations scattered all over the 285 square kilometers Langeland Island. Time for us to take another breather here. Still to come on DD India News Hour. In ICC Cricket World Cup, New Zealand face off Sri Lanka in a must-win game for the Kiwis in Bengaluru. England registers the second win after 5 consecutive defeats in the ODI World Cup, beat Netherlands by 160 runs. In Champions League, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Inter Milan and Real Sociedad all through to the last 60.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such change makers.
Watch Change Makers on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munmun Bhattacharya. Time now to catch all the sports action with my colleague Deepika, who's right here with us in the studio. Deepika, it seems that Kiwis would be happy that they are able to make some impact so far in the game against Sri Lanka, isn't it?
And it looks like they are into the semi-finals already because 5 wickets are down. So first up, let's get our viewers a quick update on the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup today's clash, as with Australia having sealed a semi-final spot with an epic victory on Tuesday night. The race is now on to grab the 4th and last remaining berths. New Zealand will emerge as the front runner to win the sprint if this side can post a victory over Sri Lanka at Bengaluru's M. Chinnaswamy Stadium. Now, this will also take the Kiwis 2 points clear of the chasing pack, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Crucially, New Zealand holds the advantage with the best net run rate among the three. But the Kiwis, after starting the World Cup with 4 victories, have fallen out of track, losing their last 4 matches. On the other hand, Sri Lanka, who's out of the reckoning, will play for pride. The defeat to Bangladesh a few days ago effectively ended their hopes of progressing to the next stage. A victory in their last league game will bring some positives to an otherwise poor Lankan campaign that looks very unlikely as of now. Now, in today's match, New Zealand earlier they won the toss and elected to field first till the last reports came in. Sri Lanka were at 78 for a loss of 5 wickets. Well, England secured only their second victory of the World Cup, beating the Netherlands by 160 runs in Pune on Wednesday. Opting to bat, England posted 339 for 9 and then returned to bowl out the Dutch for 179 runs in 37.2 overs to keep their Champions Trophy qualification hopes alive. England batting finally fired as Ben Stokes slammed a 84-ball 108, while David Malan scored 87 and Chris Wokes also contributed with 51 runs. In reply to this, Teja Nidamanuru with 41 not out was the top scorer, while Wesley Barisi, Sibran Engelbrough, Scott Edwards failed to capitalise on the start. Spin duo of Adil Rashid and Moeen Ali took 3 wickets each for the defending champions. Moving on to national games now, the services team performed really well in the boxing event in India's national games, winning 5 gold medals. Services boxing team's manager, Lieutenant Colonel Anupam Kumar, is pleased with his team's performance. In an exclusive interaction with DD India's correspondent Suchitra, he said that discipline and hard work is the key for his team's success.
What is the secret of the success of the boxers?
Our secret is our capability to pick talent from pan-India, and plus, scientific training along with military discipline makes a very lethal combination, I guess. So that is the secret behind the success of the boys. They've done really well and they've worked hard.
It's great to see people coming and cheering for the boxers.
Tourist inflow is at its peak. But despite that, the facilities have been very good and we felt really looked after. And services, of course, enjoys the love and respect of every state, wherever we go.
How do you look at it that the players, they are giving importance to the national games, they are taking part in the national games?
A good opportunity for him to test himself and to come back in shape, because we have the senior national, elite national scheduled from the 24th of November. So it is a good run-up for the final competition. Plus we have got the Olympic qualifiers coming in February and May. See, the boys are just preparing on the go.
We just saw in the Asian Games, India scored more than 100 medals. Then in the Asian Para Games, again, we scored more than 100 medals. And how do you look at the overall sports scene in India? India is going ahead in sports from strength to strength.
Yeah, the sporting culture is improving. There are so many good schemes that have been started, like the Khelo India scheme, the University Games, the Olympic podium scheme finish. Plus, the private sector is also supporting the athletes in a big way. And with the OTTs and live streaming coming into play, the social media, everything is now contributing towards the growth of sport in India.
Young kids, they will, try to take up a sport at least, because, they can see that the future is bright in sports.
Yeah, when you go for national competitions, I come from an era when parents were hardly involved with the sporting activities of their children. They used to rather discourage the kids from playing. But these days you see parents toiling so hard to make sure that the kids get the opportunity, get the training. I've seen young parents hire coaches and pay even half of their own monthly salary to the coach as a fees, but they try to give the best to the kid, and that is a really commendable thing from the parents and the society at large.
What is the next target that you set for them? What else you want them to achieve them in the future?
See, the next target is the ultimate target is June 2024, the Olympics. We want the maximum sportsmen of ours to participate in the Olympics and win back medals for the country.
So the services boxing team has performed really well in the 37 national games, and now their team management want them to go one step ahead. They are eyeing the Olympic qualifiers and ultimately the Olympics. With camera person Sumit Dhiman, this is Suchitra reporting for DD India from Goa.
So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to Munmun.
Thanks, Deepika, for that. Washington has released its beloved trio of giant pandas, Meixiang Tiantian and their cub Xiao Kuiji, as they depart for a 19-hour journey to China. The pandas were en route to a reserve in Sichuan province, where an estimated 1,800 pandas are still found. The pandas, famous for their giant panda cam, were part of a fading legacy of animal ambassadors. The remaining pandas are set to return in 2024. The urgency of climate action as temperatures continue to rise is being further highlighted as the world leaders gear up for the COP28 climate conference, facing record-breaking heat and pressure to curb greenhouse gas emissions. Let's take a look at this report.
As world leaders prepare to meet in Dubai for the COP28 climate conference, scientists are urging urgent action to curb greenhouse gas pollution. The EU's Copernicus Climate Change Service reported that October 2023 saw exceptional temperature anomalies with record-breaking highs in sea surface temperatures.
It is climate change driven, and when we look at the data, we can say that the extra heat in the Earth system comes from a range of different locations. So if we look at different latitudinal bands of the planet, then we can say that there's in October, extra heat coming from the Northern Hemisphere land, most of all, and also extra heat coming from the equatorial ocean region. So we know that most of this extra heat is coming north of the equator, and it's a combination of extra heat on land and in the atmosphere and in the ocean.
It is predicted that 2023 will be the warmest year on record, and current temperatures are 1.43 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial average. The landmark Paris Agreement aimed to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, but current temperatures far exceed this threshold.
So on record for us, our data set, ERA 5, goes back to 1940. But actually, when we combine our data with the IPCC, then we can say that this is the warmest year for the last 125,000 years. So for the last 125,000 years, that's obviously...
That's it then in this edition of DD India News Hour. But do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I and my entire team from New Delhi takes your leave. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.